Welcome to Get Your Bell Rung, a pro wrestling podcast. I have on an amazing guest tonight, a gentleman that I am so looking forward to speaking to. I am talking about Deron McBee. Of course, you guys know him as Malibu from the Gladiators. How are you, sir?
Doing awesome, my bro. Thanks for having me on, buddy. I'm super excited to chop it up with you today.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. There's a lot of questions I have to ask, things I found out that I didn't even know. But let's start off. When people hear Malibu, they instantly think of American Gladiators. What's the first thing you personally think of when you hear the name?
Well, it's funny. I'll tell you a little story. Originally, when the producers asked me to come on board and have my first audition, they had me come sit at a desk and they said, "Listen, your name is Domino for the Gladiators." And I said, "Domino." I said, and I started my surfer spiel. I said, "Dude, Domino sounds like a pizza commercial. My name is Malibu, bro." They howled. They started laughing so hard that I booked the job right there and then. So to me, it's always reminds me of that interview that I had that day where I booked one of the greatest jobs of my life. So I'm so super thankful that it happened. I had a great time, and those guys were howling, laughing when I did it. So I guess I did a pretty good job.
Yeah, it's amazing, actually, what a name could actually do, because I have to imagine your life would be so much different if you would just said okay to the Domino name.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, before you became Malibu, before you became a gladiator on the American Gladiators, what did life look like for you growing up as Deron?
Wow. So I had my share of ups and downs like a lot of kids. I pretty much grew up when I thought was this amazing, happy life. My dad was like 6'4". He was a pro baseball draftee to the Dodgers. He couldn't make it because he got injured, unfortunately. But, big, tall, studly guy. My mom was like one of the sweetest angels of all time. I raised in a family where my dad kissed me goodnight every day and hugged me and told me I was great. And then came along when I came 11 years old. My dad's best friends, Mickey and Pete, had were getting divorced. They told me about it, and I remember asking my dad if he would ever leave my mom, and he said, "No, son, I love you and your mom, and I'd never leave you and your brother Scott and your sister Holly." And so, of course, I was relieved. And about 6 months later, driving down the same road, he pulled over and he told me he was leaving my mom. So to me, that was like a double blast to the stomach, like a shotgun blast to have your dad, who I just idolized, and tell me he was leaving my mom if he promised me he would never do it. Consequently, the things went pretty downhill for my family from there. My dad remarried, and my mom became an alcoholic, and unfortunately my sister became an alcoholic, and I was the oldest, so I was there trying to hold the whole thing together, basically, and doing everything I could to kind of be the man of the family at 13, 14, 15, which I didn't know what the heck that meant. You know what I mean? I had no dad guiding me. But that's kind of how it was for me. I was always kind of there to, help my family as much as I could. But I didn't know what it was like myself to become a man for years and years later.
Right. Now, at 13 years old, you're trying to hold up your family at that age. Was there something that you used or that you did to escape all the pressure, sports or other things?
Yeah. Great question. For me, the only place I had a fortress of solitude, if you will, was my prayer. I've been a Christian for a long time, and I would pray. I'd read my Bible, and I just sat there and said, "God," all I could say was, "God, help me," because I felt totally lost. You're 13 years old, and I'm watching my mom, the sweetest woman in the world. She's drinking herself almost to death, and my brother's out there partying, taking every drug he can get his hands on, and thinking it's fun. And then there's my sister, who, when my dad left her, he basically abandoned her and kind of was doting all over his new wife's kids. So she felt left out. So I just was I felt like I was we got a dam breaking and all these holes are spurting out, and I'm trying to put my finger in all these holes to restore my relationship. And at the same time, I really missed my dad. I was super pissed at him that what he did, but at the same time, it was my father, So it was like I was getting pulled from both ends and ups and down in any way you can imagine. So it was tough.
Now, obviously, at some point you got into the gym because I have to imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what kind of put you in the spotlight to even be able to audition for the American Gladiators was your build. Bigger guy. At what age did you discover the gym, and what was that like?
So yeah, that was going to segue to that. That's a great question. So basically, I was trying to do anything I could to better myself. I discovered racquetball in the 70s, which was like this super hot sport in the 70s and 80s. And I took to it like a fish in water, man. I literally went from a novice to being one of the best players in the country. I defeated the number 3 guy in the world at one point.
Oh, wow.
The number 2 guy, took him to a tiebreaker and lost by 1 point. So I was up there. And so that was really the catapult that started helping build something inside of me, where I started having some self-confidence, because I was a super nerdy, scared, skinny little kid. I literally got bullied in high school a couple of times. And so I was very insecure, especially because of all the stuff that happened. So that's also when I discovered weightlifting. I started going to the gym, and after I watched the famous Rocky movie in the 70s, I got so inspired by Stallone's character. I thought, man, I can do that if he can do that. So I got a speed bag. I started hitting the speed bag and hitting the weights. And little by little, I started slapping on muscle. It took a long time because I was super skinny, but it eventually paid off. It took about 5 years before I really started seeing some definition in my body.
Right. At what point did the moment happen for you that you realized that entertainment and athletics was your calling in life? In other words, what was your goal? What did you want to do when you got to become an adult? And when did that all change for you and say, you know what? I kind of dig this bodybuilding thing. I want to get into athletics and entertainment.
Yeah, the adult thing, I'm still trying to figure that out right now. I've been doing stuff like a little kid my whole life lately, so it's really cool. I feel like I'm playing G.I. Joe every day for a living, Yeah, I really loved entertaining people when I played in tournaments, racquetball tournaments. Like, I realized that the crowd would get excited, and to me, I was entertaining, and that made them happy. And then I'm going to segue into something I don't talk about very often, a little bit embarrassing, but I'll tell you and the rest of the world. When I was at the gym training, I found out about 25, 26, I was in like pretty great shape at the time. And I had a buddy from the gym that walked up to me and says, hey, man, I could get you a job at this place where, you'll make great money. So you're just going to be a waiter or at this place. And I go, well, what's the name of this place? He goes, it's called Chippendales. And I'm going, what? And it was perfect for me. I was so insecure. I thought, man, if girls will like me there, then I must be okay looking. So out of insecurity, I really started working there. But then I realized that I watched these dancers, and it wasn't like they were strippers to me. They were entertaining these girls. Their girls were going crazy, and it was fun. And so I literally got into the dancing thing for about a year and a half, and then realized, okay, this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. And the combination of the racquetball and working there, and then I just realized, okay, here's what I want to do. I want to be an actor. I want to entertain people. I want to make people happy and have fun. And so at that point, I decided, okay, I'm going to grow my hair long. And I remember my dad telling me at that time when I was growing my hair long, he goes, son, there's no working actors in Hollywood with long hair. And I said, Dad, that's exactly why I'm going to work, because I'm going to be one of the few that have long hair. I'm going to set myself apart from everybody. So I grew my hair long, and I remember was trying to pick off any job I could get in any low budget film, any no budget film, just to get experience. And it was going kind of slow, to be honest with you, because I had horrible stage fright when I would go on auditions in the beginning of my career. I mean, so bad that the lines would fly out of my mouth and I wouldn't remember what I was saying, and I would flub it up. And I knew I could do good if I could get past that. Mm-hmm. And so after about 9 months, I started getting the hang of it. I started to feel a little more comfortable, turning my fears into a strength, basically. And then I was like almost simultaneously, I booked the American Gladiators job and the Conan job at Universal Studios at the same time. It was like amazing. I had a friend of mine that worked out at the gym, and he's saying, hey, they're auditioning for this Conan show. And I'd always thought it'd be awesome to play Conan. So I went out and auditioned for that. And then the next day I'm on a life cycle and the guy's got a trade magazine open. He goes, "Hey, Deron, they're auditioning for this new show called American Gladiators. And it looks like they're looking for someone like you." And I go, "Really?" So I go out there and I do the obstacle course, and one thing led to another. And then I booked both jobs. So the cool thing was that the American Gladiators was filming on the lower bottom of Universal Studios, and then a top tier, they were filming the Conan show.
Mhm.
So, well, not filming, we were doing the Conan show, it was a live show. So literally I was just running back and forth between Gladiators and Conan and Gladiators and Conan. I mean, it was magical, man. It was like one of the best times of my life. It was just awesome.
Yeah, you talked about Chip and Dale, so I'll go back to that for a second. I've always had a special place in my heart for those guys, and I'll tell you why. Way back when I was younger, I'm 53. I bartended a lot of Chip and Dale shows, and let me tell you, they got the women to be in a great mood. They were throwing money, and they continued when it got to the bar. They threw money too, man. So I made a living off of you guys for a minute there in the younger years.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I literally, and honestly, I never thought I didn't look at it like, I'm going to go out and see how many women I can take to the sack. I actually didn't sleep around. But to me, again, I really thought it was entertainment. I saw these girls having a ball. The guys were having a ball. And so it's like you said, it was just a supercharged atmosphere and a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's funny. You said you didn't sleep around. One thing I know for a fact, because I've both worked in the industry as a bartender for the men and the women, and people's opinions is very skewed about the dancers because they think the dancers are going to sleep around, and they're not. They go most of them go make their money and they're going home, man. So describe your first day on the set, and was there something that really surprised you? And since we're both talking about the Gladiator and Conan, both sets, talk to me about your first day on those sets.
Sure. The first day on Conan, it was not fun for anybody, including myself. I had gotten some kind of, I don't know, it was food poisoning or what, but when I got on the stage, bro, I was burping up something that smelled like it came from the pit of hell. It was horrible. Wow. And there'd be like 7, 8 of us on the stage, a girl who played Ren Soji and the rest of my guys fighters. I'd clear the stage off. Everyone would leave. It was so disgusting. So my first day was really not a big winner for me at Universal Studios. But then, after that, I just absolutely had a ball. I literally loved the people I worked with. They were some of the greatest people I'd ever met in my life. I'm friends with them to this day. It's like magic in a bottle when you're doing that show. It's just so special. And then for the Gladiators, I would have to go to the first day we were filming, actually. It's on YouTube. It's a scene where I'm up on this event called the Human Cannonball. You've probably seen the scene. And basically we're on this little disc and we're holding up a football blocking pad. And this guy is like 25, 30 feet away. And he's up 15 feet up high. And he swings on this rope and tries to kick the guys off. Well, of course, if anybody hits you with anything more than a slight breeze, you're going to go down because you got no balance up there. Right. This guy just kicked me so hard that my feet literally lifted off the ground like an inch or two before I started flying backwards. And when I hit the ground, my own left knee came over, hit me in the head. I gave myself a concussion and split my head open. So that was my first day at American Gladiators. And I was rushed to the emergency room, and the doctor came in. He said, "We need a plastic surgeon to do this." And so they called the plastic surgeon and just sutured up my head. And as I'm leaving, he said, "You're not going to be able to go back and do that show again." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You got a pretty major concussion there. And if you get hit again, you could be paralyzed or worse." And I'm like, "Bro," I said, "Doc, you don't understand. This is my life. I mean, this is my big shot. You can't do this." And he goes, "I'm sorry." And I looked at him. I said, "Doc, here's the deal. If you went through med school and you went through everything you went through and studied and worked for, and you're doing surgery and someone just says all of a sudden you can't do surgery ever again, how would you feel about that?" And he's go, "Well, you got a point." I said, "Listen, I'll sign whatever I need to sign, but please let me go back." And so he did. I was really thankful. But to be honest with you, like for the next couple of weeks, I was scared out of my mind every time I got up in that Human Cannonball or when we did those wrestling events, because I told the guys, if you hit me in the face, it'll split these stitches up and the scar will never be healed. So it was a lot of fun, but at the same time, I was kind of scared out of my mind, but was having a ball at both places.
Now, I have to ask you, how did what happened to you the first day of the set of American Gladiators, did that affect your role on, the Conan show or the other show that you were doing? Because I have to imagine, I mean, you have stitches and they're relying on your appearance, right? So did that come and play it out for the other thing you were doing?
That's a great question. Fortunately, we were on a stage doing the Conan show, and the sutures were, you could barely see them. They're almost imperceptible. The guy did just amazing job. Like he sutured me up right where I already had a frown line in my eye, so you can't even tell hardly. But of course, I was nervous because there were accidents on the set. I mean, I've been there, and swords would literally break, and you can hear a piece of metal like spinning right past your ear or something. It was crazy. I've had my teeth knocked loose by a friend of mine when we were doing a sword fight. His axe ricocheted off my sword and hit me in the mouth and knocked me almost out of my feet. I was on the stage doing like those boxing chicken walks when they're knocked out.
Right.
And then I finished the show by the grace of God. But I've had that happen. Broken my fingers and things like that. A lot of minor injuries, but yeah, it wasn't like I was worried on the Conan show. The Gladiator's a different story.
Right.
I really could not compete at anywhere near my level of capabilities, I should say, unfortunately, just because I did not want to have my head split open again.
Right. Now, remind me again, who was the co-stars on the Conan show?
Oh, gosh. Okay, so we had Mark Dacascos played young Conan. He's done a ton of films since then. He's done The Crow and a ton of stuff.
Yep.
My really good friend, Gary Casper, he was the Axeman over there. Lee Cole was there. Greg Michaels was there. Mark Dirksey, he played Taurus Mortar and Red Sonja. We had a girl named Jody. We had I can't think of all the. Laura Melton was one of my Red Sonjas. A bunch of just great people, man. Super cool people.
Do you guys keep up, meet every so often to stay in touch?
Yeah, definitely. Gary and I have been super close. I mean, he's probably a go-to best friend I've had for years.
Right.
A super great guy. Greg Michaels moved out of town. Lee Cole's doing his thing, but I mean, we were all super tight. Just about great guys. We had an amazing stuntman that was part of the show named Carl Ciafalio. I can't say his name right, but he just passed away. He did bunch of films, and I worked with him on film also. But another neat guy who was in the Conan show. A guy named Richie Brose, who was an amazing Conan. Amazing Conan. This guy is one of the most talented guys I've ever met in my life. He would have been like the quintessential perfect American Gladiator. Yeah, so a bunch of really cool people.
What do you think? What was so special about Malibu that you came out as being the guy, really, that you think of American Gladiators, you think of Malibu. And there's no disrespect to the rest of the guys when I say this, but I mean, just being honest, I couldn't really think if you ask me right now to name the guys, right, that were the Gladiators, Malibu would be my first name, right? So what was so special, you think, about Malibu?
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I think what it was that I created a character. None of them really thought through their character and what they wanted to portray and how they wanted to convey themselves. To me, Malibu just says, let's just party, man. Let's have a great time. You get your butt kicked, it's cool, man. If you win, man, it's cool. Everything's cool. I mean, I love you guys. It's all about bruising babes, the whole thing. And I think it really resonated with people. Seeing a guy just having a great time and loving life. And he didn't care if he got his butt kicked or not. He just was out there having a ball. And I think that brought a lot of people in because people want to have fun. They want to have a good time and stuff. So I think I made myself kind of this larger than life, over the top good guy that everybody loved to laugh with. And I had literally one night when I was at Universal Studios, I just finished up the Conan show and I'm walking out and about 10 guys come running by and they skid to a stop and they go, dude, you're Malibu. We party with you every Friday night. I'll never forget he said that. And they're all high-fiving me and stuff like that. I go, yeah. He goes, what are you doing here? I go, I do the Conan show. Oh, sweet, bro. So it was really cool, man. I mean, it just resonated with the college kids like crazy. They were doing Gladiator games in their dorms and stuff. It was just amazing. It really was. It was, like I said, it just was like a magic and very special time.
Now, that actually is a gateway into my next question perfectly, because you sat here and you said, because you wanted to have a good time, you like to guys get your butt kicked, put your party together. Now, be honest here.
Uh-huh.
I have to imagine during American Gladiators, you have this guy that is contested that's trying to get through all of you so he can be the winner of the whole show, right?
Right.
How competitive did you get? In other words, how often was it that you were like, I want to stick it to this guy. I really want to make him feel like, not hurt him. And the best example I could give, I have a son that's 20 years old. He's discovered the gym and he's starting to blow up, right? Well, there's times I like to goof off and I don't want to hurt him. He's my son.
Right.
But I like him to still feel that bad, right?
Right.
And it's about competition. So how often did you ever feel that way, that you wanted to get it real good to him?
Yeah, that's a great question. There was one guy, his name was Billy Worth. Billy Worth was on an awesome, one of my all-time favorite movies called The Lost Boys. It was a really cool vampire film. If anybody hasn't seen that, you got to watch it.
Man, I know all about it.
Yes, it was freaking amazing movie, fun movie. Yeah. So anyways, Billy was on there. He was fresh off of that and very cocky New York kid. But I remember stepping in the Wrestling the Conquer ring and I said, Billy, look, I just had plastic surgery on my forehead. Please don't hit me in the face because it could make the cut twice as bad and I'll bleed it. What does he do? The first thing he does is smacks me right in the face. And I blink and he throws me out of the ring just like that.
Right.
So at that point, that's when Malibu's teeth came out. Let's put it that way. And we, the Gladiator saw it, Gemini saw it, Nitro saw it, and I said, okay, we're gonna ground and pound this guy next game of Powerball. And so we were playing Powerball, and I said, look, I'm gonna grab him, Gemini, you hit him and knock him away from the camera so people aren't gonna see this. And I remember grabbing him by his hair and flipping him over my shoulder with his hair, hitting the ground, and we just pounded on him. And he wasn't so mad at me because he knew I was giving a payback, but Gemini really pushed his buttons for some reason. And they went at it a couple more times after that. But that was probably the only time I even got my feathers ruffled. But he was just a dirty player, so I didn't feel too bad.
How much of the character Malibu was the person Drew McBee? Yeah,
right. So it's about 85% me. I mean, literally. I mean, that's the best version of myself. I could say that I'd like to project. I mean, like I said, I'm a Christian and I really, really love helping people. I'm also a drug and alcohol counselor. So I work with a lot of addicts and recovering addicts and people. And it's so worthwhile to me to either help people when they're struggling or make people happy when I'm entertaining them. So to me, I get super fulfilled when I'm serving others and helping other people. And that's really what drives my life, to be honest with you.
Right. Now you're doing Conan, you're doing the American Gladiators. You have to find time between the two to stay in shape. After all, part of the reason why you're able to have these parts is because of, you being in shape. Right. What was your workout regimen like back then, and how difficult was it? Because I have to imagine that there were days that you're like, man, I'm tired. I just want to go home and go to bed. Yeah.
I mean, I remember one time in particular, it's a great question. In particular, I was filming actually this third thing that I was doing called Wild Space. And I was playing another Conan type character. And we filmed till like 10 o'clock at night. It was like 14 hours. And I remember, I got to do biceps. I got to do biceps. And so here I am, 10 o'clock. I drag my butt to the gym and I'm doing biceps, half falling asleep. Because we're working 14, 16 hours days. But also with the Conan thing, the cool thing about them was we'd get breaks sometimes 2-3 hours in between shows. And so there was a Gold's Gym about 10 minutes from Universal Studios.
Mhm.
So they'd let us go to Gold's Gym. We'd work out there for an hour and come back and do a show. So it was a lot like that. Every time I went to work at Universal, I'd go to Gold's and train that way. When we were doing the Gladiators, they had some weights on the set, but most of that, when you're filming, you just don't have time.
Right.
So it was just whenever you can get it. And on my days off, I would be just in the gym constantly because, not only do I love training, but I had goals to keep getting bigger and bigger and chiseling my body out the way I wanted it to be. So it was fun. I never even looked down on it for a minute. I was excited and had a great time.
Yeah. Now, part of maintaining your physique isn't just lifting weights. A big part of it is what you're putting in your body. You have to eat enough.
Right.
How often did you have to say, time out, I got to have a meal? And the people that were in charge, were they very cooperative and supportive when it came to you being able to have the meals that you needed to have in order to keep your body going the way you wanted it to?
Yeah, good question. In the Gladiators, since it was the first, year we ever filmed, they were just kind of figuring all that stuff out. So they were trying to get somewhat healthy meals, but they weren't great. A lot of stuff I'd bring from home, or we'd just live on protein shakes. Because when I was doing the Gladiators, I was literally under 5% body fat at the time. So I was super shredded and wasn't smart because I was getting dizzy every day from being so lean and then getting beat up on the Gladiators. But it looked good, but it wasn't really workable. But anyway, so I would do that. But Conan, I'll tell you, I'd go in the commissary before I did a show, maybe 2 hours before, and I would order, and this is my breakfast almost every day, 2 giant bowls of oatmeal with raisins, brown sugar, milk, 5 eggs, scrambled with tomatoes and mushrooms and cheese and an orange juice, a coffee. And literally pound that down, and you'd think I'd put weight on, and that was burnt out by the end of the day. I'd burn right through those calories. So it would be a huge breakfast, and then usually maybe something light for lunch. But I really didn't eat much while I was at Conan because you're so supercharged when you're running around. It's easy to get sick if you got too much food in your stomach bouncing around. You know what I mean? Right. You need all that energy to just be working on the set and not having to digest food, basically. So I stayed away from eating after breakfast if I could.
Yeah. Now, talk about your injury, and that pretty much happened as soon as you started working as American Gladiator. How long was it before you felt like you were back to being at that level 100% that you can now go, full gas as American Gladiator?
Yeah, that was it wasn't until after the season was over, unfortunately. And I just couldn't. 3 weeks is enough time to heal from a bad concussion, and also plastic surgery. It's not healed up for a while. So it wasn't until probably about maybe 2 months after that I felt like I was really ready to go again. But having to be really careful because I was off doing stunts. I remember I did a PlayStation commercial while I was doubling for Sting, and my character was Sting. I had to literally get thrown through one of these huge storefront windows that you see. You go to department stores.
I don't mean to interrupt you. You talk about Sting, the professional wrestler?
Yeah. Steve, my Sting, great guy, good buddy. Yeah. So he and I became really good friends after that. But anyways, the commercial was Goldberg and Sting were wrestling, and Bill Goldberg threw Sting through this huge window. Right. So that was me that went through the window. Okay. And and it was a real, literally glass window. So I'm wearing Sting's outfit, which is, not covering my upper body barely at all. And I'm trusting this guy who's the effects manager. He put charges, like explosive charges, at each corner of the window. And right before I hit it, they punch it and it blows the window out. If you watch every single movie before a guy gets ready to go through a window, you'll see it shatter right before he hits it. If you look really closely, pay attention, you go, wow, I saw it. It happens almost every time. Unless it's like candy glass, but this is real glass. Right. Problem is, number one, if it doesn't shatter all the way through, those shards could come down and slice me in half. All kind of crazy cuts could happen. So I'm looking at that thing, I'm getting ready to run straight headway into it and jump like I got thrown, thinking, okay, Lord, don't let me get cut to shreds. And literally I got through, was okay. I had to get all the glass out of my eyes because my eyes had glass in it. I had like 30 little cuts all over my body from the window, and one slightly big cut in my arm that needed stitches, but I never got stitches. I just kind of let it heal. But fortunately, that was it. But still, it's, it can be dangerous. And plus, I'm thinking if my face gets tore up again, I'm going to be in huge trouble. So I still had a Band-Aid up there from the little surgery they did, plastic surgery. Yeah. So
I tell you, since I've been doing this podcast for about a year, and I've been blessed to have so many great guests on, and some I've become friends with, and most is all been professional wrestlers. And because I've become friends with them, we talk, and just through general conversations, they'll say something that will ruin something about professional wrestling as a fan for me, because then I see it. You've just now ruined movies for me when I see people go through windows, because now I'm going to be looking for the glass.
Sorry, brother.
So I want to get serious a little bit for a second about American Gladiators, and I don't want to go too deep into it because I like to have a positive podcast, but there were some dark things that came out about American Gladiators. How did you manage to keep yourself away from that type of stuff and to live such a positive life without getting sucked up into a lot of that stuff that was happening?
Yeah, man. That's another great question. Here's the thing that I really noticed about what fame does to people. I mean, we were all nobodies basically. I wasn't doing anything. And all of a sudden we get on the show, and then instantly people are following us. They want our autographs. And I literally watch people change, and literally watch egos start to get blown up, and people wanting a little bit more money or a little more camera time, or I'm better than Malibu because this or that, or, whatever. And it really made me sad, because then there was a lot of jealousy and internal bickering that would go on. And to me, that just hurt the show. I'm thinking, we should all be there for each other. Some guys are better athletes than the other ones. Other guys are better entertainers. It doesn't matter. We should just all be together, right? And that would have made the show better. But unfortunately, a couple of them had some ill will towards me just because I was always laughing when I was getting my butt kicked, and I didn't care. And I think also because I was a working actor, and I wasn't just all about the Gladiators. It was a stepping stone.
Right.
And a lot of them kind of envisioned they could do that kind of stuff, and they could have if they really put themselves out there. But it was just that. And so to me, that was kind of the negative side of the whole thing that made it kind of a bummer sometimes.
Right. Now, in all actuality, the American Gladiator TV show, it didn't last that long. It really didn't. But here we are years later, and it made such an impact on people that, guys my age, we still remember it. We still talk about it. Matter of fact, a good friend of mine, his name is Josh. We found out he was coming on my show. He's actually in professional wrestling as well. He said, man, he's like, I remember my mom actually had a centerfold of Malibu. Yeah. So why was this? Why was the American Gladiators? What was so special about it that you think that here we are so many years later, it still resonates with people?
Yes. I think because number one, it was literally hit the scene right when reality TV started. I mean, you could argue that the Gladiators ushered in the reality TV, that just became so famous. And that was so interesting to people because they'd never seen anything like that. And then secondarily, you've got true man-to-man competition. You've got the underdog facing the gladiator, the hometown kid going against the big bad gladiator. And so it was just a David Goliath type of a thing, and you're rooting for the underdog, of course. And it was just resonated in the hearts of all Americans. It just really took over. And I think that's what it had to do with it. Just the fact it was something so new and something no one's ever seen. It was real competition. People saw real competition, real injuries. And so you're just sitting there like, who's going to get wiped out today? Malibu went down last week. Who's going down this week?
Right.
So it was, I think, just that. People just love the competition.
Right. How hard was it for you, not as Malibu, but as Drew, to end that role?
So you know what? Yeah, I had to look at Deron McBee deep in the eyes. I mean, I had to look at myself deep down and think, okay, it was hard for me initially because one of the producers fired me from the show because he didn't think I was tough enough. And I was like, dude, you know how much guts it takes to get up there and just face these people when you've had plastic surgery and you have a concussion? I said, the fact that I got up there should tell you I've got guts.
Right.
It was a frustration of never really being able to perform at my peak for the TV. Now I went on to do the live show, and then I did a show in Kissimmee, Florida, which was kind of like a dinner show thing, which was a lot of fun. But that's when I was able to get it on and really go full bore and compete and still have a great time. So I felt like I kind of redeemed myself, if you will, when I got to do the live tour and also do the dinner theater.
Well, what's crazy was they let you go because they didn't think you were tough enough. But yet, I would dare to say, to this day, you are the most remembered gladiator that came out of there.
It was crazy, right?
Does that give you this sense of more of that sense of accomplishment more so than what you did when you were fired from it?
Sure. Yeah, of course. I mean, I try and look at the positives more than the negatives. But yeah, I mean, getting fired was kind of a bruise to my ego more than anything else, because I knew I was moving in the movie stuff, and I was just moving up and doing more stuff. But at the same time, I love doing the show. I love the people in the show. But after all that was said and done, I kind of knew it was time to move on and reinvent myself, if you will, and just move forward. What do I want to do now? What kind of stuff do I want to pursue? What are my goals and things like that? Right. So it was just that the Gladiators, I figured I'd be going a little bit longer with them, but the reality was, you're right. I made such an impact that to this day, it kind of blows me away. But again, it just goes to show how much people just love to see people having fun and not taking themselves serious. I think that's probably the other biggest thing about Malibu is he never took himself serious. He wasn't walking around with a big fat ego and I'm gonna crush you, brother. Any of that stuff. He's just having fun, and people like seeing that because I became a more relatable figure, I think, to a lot of people.
Yeah, and I'm not blowing smoke up your butt. I can tell you with all sincerity that when I was watching that show as a young man, 16 years old, 17 maybe, I always rooted for the underdog, as most people did, with the exception of when it came to you, the underdog facing you, we wanted to see Malibu actually win because there was something about you that we see that was special.
Thank you.
Now, you did the Conan thing, you American Gladiator, when both was all said and done. Was there one that you got more out of than the other? And if so, which one? And tell me why.
Great question. I think it would definitely be, well, as far as notoriety and stuff, of course, the Gladiators put me on the map. But as far as sheer enjoyment, fun, longevity, it was Conan by far, because I got some of the best friends that I could ever have. I mean, we went out and we partied together and had house parties at each other's homes and stuff. And doing the show was, you can't get anything more exciting than doing something live before an audience, because you feel the energy and they get your energy and then you feed off of each other. And that's something that, you just can't even explain. It's amazing, and I'd be seeing a 2,000 seat arena being filled out, every day and people cheering. And I think to myself, what would that be like, to be a rock star, and you've got 20,000 people cheering. Well, I remember the day on the American Gladiators live tour that we sold out Madison Square Garden. And there I was at the bottom of Madison Square Garden looking at 22,000 people going crazy for the Gladiators. And I'm thinking, wow. I mean, that's when I knew how big that show was and how much of an impact it made on people. And it was amazing. So each one had its special, the special parts of it that I love and so thankful for. But I think overall, Conan, because of the lasting friendships I've made and all the fans that I know, like people took so many pictures over the years, and I, talk to my wife and I say, honey, I'm in people's scrapbooks all over the world, which is kind of cool, and so I think that more than anything else, because I had more people contact. I know after the show, we'd meet people with the Conan show. We'd go meet people and greet and sign autographs, take pictures and stuff. And so to me, that was probably a little more memorable.
Yeah. Well, and right now on Roku TV, there's a 24-hour channel dedicated to the American Gladiators from back in the day that you can watch. I mean, that's how much of an impact that it had. Let's talk about professional wrestling now. Sure. Because I'll be honest with you, one thing that surprised me 2 months ago, if that was when I found out you were involved in professional wrestling, because the last thing I could ever think of would be Malibu and professional wrestling, because you were, and I viewed you as an athlete, but it wasn't the type of athlete that a professional wrestler is, right? But here you are, pro wrestling, and as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, because again, doing my research, my homework for the interview, I'm at the mercy of what I can find on the internet. Now, it came up that you actually worked with John Cena on cutting promos and how to speak. Yeah. Is that correct?
True, and I'll tell you what happened. I was working with for a friend of mine, Rick Bassman, who I think he owned UPW, but anyways, he had a wrestling school, and John Cena, who wrestled as Prototype at the time, insane looking guy. I mean, he was just an incredible body and just build. And I'm teaching a class on how to cut promos. And a lot of these guys have never done it before, or they just need to be more polished. And so I'm just helping them teach a promo. And in walks John Cena, and he said, "Do you mind if I, cut a promo?" And I said, "Yeah, go for it." And I'm not thinking much. And this kid's, I don't know at the time, 22 or 23, and he rips into a monologue that goes on for like 2 minutes, and my jaw's hitting the ground. And I look at him and go, "John, there's nothing I can teach you. Nothing." I said, "Dude, you blow me away. Have a good day." Wow. I'm go, this guy's got everything. And that's when I knew, he's going to make it to WWE. There was no question in my mind, because he was like the total package. He had everything, like, beautiful body, chiseled chin, the whole thing. And just on the stick is amazing. His mind works so fast. It's incredible. So, and he, a lot like mine, but 22, I didn't have the polish that he had. There's no way. Right. I didn't get that until I was like 30. It took a lot more years for me to get that kind of polish, but he was an amazing athlete and actor.
Now, how did you learn to cut promos? What gave you that qualification for, someone to bring you up and say, "Hey, I want you to teach guys, professional wrestlers, on how to speak and cut promos"? Right.
I think a lot of that had to do with my number one, my background in acting, because you're playing a character. So if you're cutting a promo, and the thing is, I was trying to help people realize that you don't have to be a carbon copy of Hulk Hogan. You can do a bunch of different stuff, be a different person. And I played so many different characters over the years that I think that really helped give me the ability to kind of go outside of the wrestling box, if you will. And also, I cut promos for the Malibu thing. I did a couple promos that went viral. Went nuts. And it was talking silly stuff, but people loved it. So I think a lot of it's just a gift that God gave me, like He gave John a gift where he can just, pull that stuff together. But I think the acting background happened, and the Gladiators, and my buddy Rick believed in me. And so he asked me if I would do that. And, he's a good friend of mine to this day. And yeah, if he asked me for anything, I'd help him out. So,
right. Now, were you a wrestling fan at all?
Oh, sorry. That's what I meant to say. The third component, and I forgot to say that, is I was a freaking huge wrestling fan. Wow. Love the Ultimate Warrior, because his shtick was amazing. A great gimmick. Of course, Hulk Hogan. I actually stunt doubled Hulk Hogan in a car commercial, which I looked nothing like him, but it was a long shot, and it was a sliding a car, a Toyota, driving away really fast, and I was supposed to be him driving the car.
Yeah.
But I got to talk to him for about 8 hours, and it was right before the Gladiators were going to go on tour. So I said, "Hey Terry, can you tell me what it's like being on the road? I've never been on the road." And he was super cool. He told me what to expect and how tough it is a lot of times, and it's lonely, and you got to watch out for drugs and blah blah blah. And just super cool. And he and I ran into each other a bunch of times over the years. I ran into him at the airport, but he was always nice to me. He was always cordial to me, and just really cool. The fact that he would talk to me and spend that time. So we had a good time together, and I think he respected the fact that I was doing the Gladiator, so I wasn't like a peon to him or anything, and he was willing to talk to me. It was great. So huge wrestling fan. I mean, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and Jimmy what's his name, Superfly Snuka, and I mean all those guys. Brutus, the Barber Beefcake, loved them all. All the old school guys. I loved watching that stuff. I loved watching the entertainment of it. So yes, that was another big reason why I got into the Gladiators. Really, I loved the Ultimate Warrior, and I thought, man, that guy's awesome. I want to do something like that.
And it's funny you mentioned the Ultimate Warrior, because since the beginning of this, the podcast, what's been going through my mind is, man, this guy could actually pass for the Ultimate Warrior. You could absolutely be a body double for him, at least facial. So was there ever a point in time that you thought, maybe instead of being an actor or the American Gladiators, I want to become a professional wrestler?
Yes. And I was at what's called the NAPTI convention. It's where all the big TV shows, whether it be Oprah or any TV show, will go to sell their shows for the next season. And so they're basically advertising for the people that are going to be paying and sponsoring them for the next season. And so I was there doing this show called Martial Masters. It was kind of like a Gladiators for martial artists type of a thing. And I was playing another character. But anyways, I was there, and I got a holler, said, somebody, wants to talk to you. And so this guy took me back, and it was Vince McMahon and also the Ultimate Warrior, Mark, before he ever was put over. I met him before he was put over, and I'm looking at this guy going, oh my gosh, this guy's massive. He's 6'11", but he was so soft spoken. He goes, hi, my name's Mark. He's got this Texas accent, or where he's from. I'm going, that soft voice coming out of that big man. Super nice guy. And Vince was talking to me about coming over and wrestling up Canada with the Heart Foundation, having to put me over and teach me and stuff. And I thought about it, and I thought about it real hard, and I appreciated it. And then I literally booked a movie like within 2 weeks after that. And I thought, I'm going to stick with the movies and just stay with that. So I've always loved wrestling. I always thought it'd be a lot of fun. I know there's a lot of injuries involved, but I've been so torn up doing stunts in my life that one would be a trade-off for the other, I'm sure. So yes, the answer is yes to your question.
Yep. So Don the Barber, first, thank you for tuning into the podcast. Please subscribe if you haven't. Says, I always thought Blaze could have made it as a female wrestler in the WWF. Do you keep in touch with any of your former gladiators?
Yeah, that's interesting you said that, because literally Blaze and Diamond and I are going to be doing a collector's con in Syracuse, New York in March. Nice. So we're super excited. I haven't seen either one in a while. I stay in touch with Erica, who's Diamond, quite a bit. She is an elegant, lovely, amazing person. Sweet as can be. I don't know if you ever want to do her, but man, you should interview her. She's just
absolutely.
She's one of the most elegant, sweet gals I've ever met. And Blaze, you're right. She is on fire. I remember watching her. She's not big and bulky, but she's got a perfect physique back in the day. And she was doing squats with 225 on the rack to the ground, down and up. And I'm just watching it in awe of this girl because how strong she was. And so I agree 100%. She would be perfect for that.
Right. Now, before we get into what you're doing right now, I want to ask you, so you grew up, you're very spiritual person. Was there a time that you were offered to do a movie that, because of your spirituality, that you just had to say, nah, that's crossing the line for myself? And if so, talk to me about that.
Yeah, man. You got some great questions, bro. Love it. Thank you. I appreciate it, Kevin. So yeah, in the beginning, my mindset was this. I'm portraying a character. Okay. It changed since what I'm going to tell you, but my mindset in the beginning was, well, I'm portraying a character. And if the guy is a rough, say, FBI agent who happens to be an alcoholic, he's going to throw in F-bombs and this and that, and he's going to talk rough. And that's just the character. And so I didn't have any problem with that. But then, and I did a movie like that, and it turned out great. I was really happy with my acting in that. But then I had a buddy of mine who was a Christian buddy. He said, "Listen, Deron, wherever you go, you're representative of God, and it's still you who these people are seeing." And he said, "I think you could find other creative ways to use words that aren't 4-letter words to get your point across." Mm-hmm. And that ended up being the best piece of acting advice I ever got in my life, even though he didn't mean to give me an acting lesson, because from then on, I decided, I don't need to I can use other words. And I did this Curb Your Enthusiasm episode called Thor 14. And if you ever want to see something that's pretty funny, I made Larry David, the director and the guy who stars in it, laugh 3 times. We had to cut and break. And the first assistant director said, "Deron, no one's ever made this guy laugh before. No one has ever cracked him like you have." And it was because I was cussing him out, but I wasn't using 4-letter words. So I was calling him a bald-headed turd and things like that. And he was howling just like you did. And so it really turned my career around in a lot of ways, because I started doing acting where I thought of creative ways to use language like that was actually even more powerful, and people would remember me more by it. So, so that would be, that would be probably one of the best times I ever had, that I could say thankful to somebody who really helped me change my thought process and actually helped me become a better actor also.
Right. Has there been a movie that you turned down that became much bigger than what you thought it was going to be, that you regret turning down?
No, I don't think there's anything I've been in a couple movies where I was on the editing room floor, which I wanted to cry about. For instance, The Mask with Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Okay. The beginning of that movie was supposed to be some Vikings bringing the mask over from distant land and depositing it here in the United States because it was cursed. We have to get rid of it. Well, I was playing the lead Viking in that, and I get to have this whole Swedish speech about this cursed thing, and I'm speaking phonetically in Swedish, and it's a great monologue. And I tell everybody I'm in The Mask, you got to go see it. I'm in the opening scene of the movie. And I remember going there, and it was nothing. Just cut my whole scene out. But the good news is I still get residuals because I'm on the deleted scenes on the other side. So if anybody has a CD, they can flip it over to deleted scenes, and you'll see my scene there.
Nice.
So it was great. It was great fun, but that was probably the reverse of what you were talking about. A real bummer, because I thought it was going to be in a big movie.
You are now involved with veteran professional wrestling, correct?
Say that again?
You're involved now with veteran professional wrestling. Is that correct?
Yes, veteran wrestling. Yes.
Tell me, how did this come about, and what are you doing with veterans professional wrestling?
Yeah, that's kind of evolving as we speak. I met this guy named Christopher Anino, super talented guy, wrestler himself. He wrestles as the Manimal, and there's a great guy for your podcast. You want to have a great guy for your podcast?
Yeah. He's been on.
Do you know who he is?
Yep.
Yeah. He's a wild man. He's super brilliant guy. I mean, he really is super creative. But anyways, he and I got to talking, and he talked to me about Veterans Pro Wrestling and asked me if I'd like to come out. And I said, "Tell me more about it." And he goes, "Well, we'd like you to be the commissioner of it." And I thought, that sounds like fun. I'll, go out there and help you out. And they took care of my airfare, hotel, and all that stuff. And so I went there, and we put on an amazing show. It sold it out. And what shocked me was all these wrestling fans that were loving Malibu and wanting autographs and still remembering me. That blew me away, really, to be honest with you. Because I'm just going to go there and wave, and who cares about Malibu? But it was a big deal. They had a fun. I had a really good time, and so that's kind of how it started. Now I'm working with a buddy of his named Mo, and he's the one going to start sending us on these different Comic Cons and collector con places to do meet and greets and things like that. So good stuff came out of it and is coming out of it. I'm still working through some things with Chris right now that I'm real excited about.
Right. Any thoughts of actually stepping inside of the square circle and having a match?
In my dreams. Yeah, I would love to do that. If they had geriatric gladiators, I might think about it. Man, I'm old, bro, and I'm pretty torn up, man. I was just having lunch with my wife. We went to the Cheesecake Factory yesterday, and I'm walking around. All of a sudden, oh, honey, my knees are starting to hurt. Like, I'm so sorry. We got to turn around and go home. It's like, and she's hearing me all the time. I just had an MRI from my back because I've got 6 herniated discs in my back right now. And I did a movie with Chuck Norris years ago, and he put me in a headlock and did a neck breaker, but he really broke my neck. He literally obliterated one of my vertebrae of my neck, and so I mean I'm all beat up. But if I could, I'd love to do it again. I mean, I watched those guys when I was at BPW, and I was thinking, man, I'd love to go do that again. I'd love to roll around and and hit the mat, because that's me. I love to get thrown around and get pounded and get rough, and so I just can't. I can't anymore.
What is your favorite movie that you've done, and your favorite actor or actress that you have worked with, and why?
Wow. Okay. Good question. Favorite. There's a couple. Actually, a couple of my B movies I've done. One was called Immortal Combat, and Roddy Piper was in it, and Sonny Lister was in it. That was probably the most fun, and actually probably one of the best B movies. If you guys and your fan base can check this out, called Immortal Combat, it's an actually great B film. There's some amazing samurai sword fights in there, really good action, storyline's fun, typical B movie, but a really good one. That would probably be one of my favorites. And of course, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I really had a ball doing that too. I got to travel around the country and around the world and stuff. It was really, really fun, meeting some cool people, and going to Amsterdam and seeing that, and Thailand for 8 weeks, and London. It was really a lot of fun. The movie, unfortunately, was kind of a turd, because they didn't get to finish. 13 pages of the script was left over, and so there were a lot of holes and gaps in the film that could have been filled in if they were able to film, but they ran out of money, which is unfortunate. But the concept was great, and the fact that I'm a part of the Mortal Kombat franchise is amazing to me, and a super cool blessing. So I would say those are two, and then I'll tell you my least favorite actor I worked with. First of all, least favorite would be Tommy Lee Jones. I played his right-hand henchman in Batman Forever, and I'll tell you exactly a scene. I heard he wasn't a really nice guy, but it's lunchtime, and I'm walking towards the commissary, and he's coming back from the commissary with his agent or whoever it was, and talking. We really literally ran right into each other. He knew who I was. I was with him for 3 weeks, and I said, "Hey, Mr. Jones," I said, I'm a fan of your work, but my grandmother's a huge fan. She's 95. Is there any way that I could get an autograph from you? And literally, he stops. He looks me right in the eye, looks down, looks up, turns his head, and walks away.
Wow.
It completely blew me off, but he wanted me to know he was blowing me off.
Right.
I thought, man, that was so unnecessary. That was so uncalled for. He could have just said, no, thank you, or whatever. And, I'm busy, whatever. But he went out of his way to blow me off. And then I'd heard he was super jealous of muscular guys. And I'm like, and what a waste. Here's this freaking dude that is famous, but if you look at his face, you can see he's a miserable person.
Right.
You know what I mean? Actually, I think it was Abraham Lincoln says you can determine the person's life and what kind of person he is by the lines on his face. Something like that. But it's very true with him. Now, the best actor, I would say Robert Duvall. I worked on Falling Down with him.
Okay.
Another movie scene that I got cut off, except to the very end. I'm at the end of the movie and on a beach pier with speedos, pink speedos, which makes no sense. But in the movie, I'm doing a commercial within the movie where I'm on the beach and I'm holding up this Kia car with these 4 babes in pink bikinis right next to me, and I'm lifting this car supposedly, and Robert Duvall runs through the scene, and so it's like, dude, what are you doing? You're wrecking this whole scene, blah blah blah. But anyways, they cut that. But he's probably one of the best actors I've ever seen in my life. Just absolutely amazing. And Val Kilmer, I worked with him on Batman Forever. Spent about 3 weeks with him. And what's interesting about Val is that if you just see him on the street, just walk on the streets, you wouldn't really look twice. He's not real tall. He's not muscular. But in front of that camera, man, something magic happens with that guy. And his charisma and his acting ability and the choices he makes are magic. He's just he's definitely one of the best actors around. Unfortunately, he passed away, but amazing actor.
Yeah, it's tragic loss.
Yeah.
Final question.
Sure.
What would you tell to someone who was hungry in the gym or who wanted to get into the business of acting or even becoming an athlete? That's nice.
So, I've had this conversation. Matter of fact, I just had this conversation with a friend of my daughter's husband who wants to get into it. And the deal with acting is this. You need to figure out in your mind's eye exactly what type of character you want to play, what kind of movies or TVs you want to be a TV actor, movie actor. Do you want to do commercials? What do you want to do? And what type of roles are you going to go for? And you pigeonhole yourself into those things. You give yourself a couple options and you create yourself to fit that narrative of whatever character that you want to portray. And secondly, you become the best at whatever it is you need to do. If it's a martial arts guy, then you just martial arts your butt off until you become the best you can be, and you keep doing it. If it's bodybuilding, you get in there and you build the best genetic body you can build with eating the right food, the good supplements and things like that. And you obviously take acting lessons. You go study your craft. And the biggest thing I would tell them is you don't quit. You just don't quit, because you're going to hear no 100 times, 1,000 times. You're too tall, you're too short, you're too this, you're too that. I mean, I lost a commercial job where my agent said on the breakdown, which is what they send out for what actors are looking for. They said they are looking for Malibu from the American Gladiators. Well, that's my job. I got a commercial. They're looking for me. I went in there. I didn't get the commercial.
Wow. That's crazy.
I'm here. So you just hear no for the weirdest things, Then I booked a job that they wanted to hire a bald guy for, but they ended up putting me in a bald cap because I did such a great audition. So you never know. But the bottom line is you persevere and you do not quit. It's I just always say no surrender, no retreat. If you're going to be an actor, then that's what you do. And you find some kind of way to support yourself, whether it's bartending like you did or personal training like I did, just to supplement yourself. But you are an actor, and that's what you got to do. And as far as an athlete, when I was a pro racquetball player, it was training. I was in the gym 6 hours a day, training like an animal, racquetball, weight training, all of that, to be the best that I could be. So it's perseverance. And I think, you probably know it takes such determination. A lot of people don't have the grit to do it. They just don't. And it doesn't mean, I'm better than anybody. It just means that most people don't have it. But you got to really know, like, whatever it is you're going to do, you got to really know what you're doing it, why you're doing it. Okay. That's a really important one. What's the reason? Why do you want to be an actor? Right. If it's just for money and fame, that's a stupid reason. I mean, it's a reason, but it's a stupid reason.
Right. 100%.
You know what I mean? So, if I want to be an actor and I say I want to entertain people and I want to make people happy and I want to be a blessing to people and give them good memories when they think about whatever show I did, that's a good reason.
Right.
I think that's a good reason. That's my reason. It may not be your reason, but whatever motivates you, that has to really be from the core of your heart to want to do something to be the best you can be.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's what I would say.
What is next for Deron McBee?
So I just finished a movie. I don't know if have you heard of Devin Nicholson, the Blood Hunter?
Yeah.
Yes, I just worked on his movie. A lot of fun.
Nice.
Great guy. He hosted me, and terrific host. Really a gentleman, and actually did a really good job acting wise. I was really impressed. So I just worked on that. Had a lot of fun. And then right after that, I did the UPW thing. I'm not sure. They're having one in January 24th, and I'm trying to figure it out if I'm going to go or not go. There's some questions about that right now, but that's what's going on. And then I'm going to Syracuse in March to do this collector's con thing with Mo. Very excited about that. And then I'm busy right now doing drug and alcohol counseling. Because what we didn't talk about was that after a lot of injuries and my wife had passed away, my mom had passed away, my sister literally passed away from alcoholism. I went into a depression and I got injured super bad in a stunt. And then I became addicted to pain pills really bad for about 8 years. And I got to the place where I was at the end of my rope. It was like, God, either just take me to heaven or help me get through this. I got to get through this nightmare. And the funny thing was when I first started, well, not funny, but the thing the doctor told me when I first started, they said, it's not addictive. And I said, this is a narcotic? And he said, no, but it's new. You won't be addicted to it. And at that point, I never had taken a pain pill. I'd never drank a beer. I'd never been drunk, never smoked pot, no cigarettes. I mean, I was clean. So I'm thinking I'm never going to be addicted to something.
Right.
But he said, you might become dependent. And then I said, that sounds like addiction to me, doc. What's the difference? When you're dependent, you'll be able to get right off when you're feeling better. Well, that was a lie, man. I was like primed for addiction. And by the grace of God, I got out of it. And ever since then, it's made me have a tenderized heart for people that are suffering with addiction or have family members that are suffering with addiction. So I decided to use whatever modem of celebrity that I have to help people and, serve people that are stuck. And so to me, that's super rewarding. So that's kind of the direction I'm going. I'm just seeing kind of where God leads. But right now I'm at a great place. I got married to the most amazing woman 2 years ago. She's better than I deserve, treats me like a king. I'm crazy in love with her and so thankful for her. So things are right now in a great place for me, and being able to do things like this with you is a blessing for me. So I'm really, really thankful that we were able to spend some time together tonight.
Well, no, thank you for coming on. I was going to reach out to you, but I didn't know if you'd say yes or no. And then when you actually reached out to me, I was like, oh, this is great. I get what you're talking about because when I lost my dad, I went into a really bad downward depression. I was homeless for 2 years actually, and I got a DUI, and that was the best thing that ever happened to me because I had a daughter. My daughter was a baby at the time, and in the tank when sobering up, I literally just asked myself, "What are you doing? You have a beautiful little girl,
right?
Like, do you want her to not have a dad?" And I got myself clean, and it was right during that point that I met my amazing wife. We've been together for 12 years now. That really helped me get out of that place. So there's a need for people like you out there to help people because I don't care how strong you think you are. You just don't know when something in life is going to happen that's going to rock your world that you didn't expect. So, thank you for being out there and doing that to help people, because if it wasn't for people that I came in contact to, I was able to lead on, I don't think I would be here today. So it takes special people like you out there.
Well, thank you, man. And thank you for sharing that with me. I mean, that's people just, and that's a thing too. People will look at someone like you or me, you're in show business, I'm in show business, and think that, oh, those guys are bulletproof. Their life is all great. But they don't realize, man, we go through stuff like everybody else.
Right.
We go through pain, and when I found my mom, went to visit my mom, I found her on the floor dead from a heart attack. It blew my world apart too, because she was the closest thing to a real angel. She'd finally quit, drinking after 15 years. I worked with her on Batman Forever. She was an amazing hairstylist. She worked in A movies all the time, but
Wow.
one of the nicest people of all time. And she passed away. But two years before that, my 35-year-old wife died from a heart attack from a blood clot that she had in her hip that traveled up to her heart. And she dropped at 35. And then there was my mom and then my sister. She drank herself to death about 3 years after that from alcohol. And so, like you said, when you're hit with so many tragedies and all that pain, and I've got 2 daughters at the time, and I'm trying to raise them, and I'm stuffing all that pain inside and acting like I'm okay because daddy's got to be okay for them. And then all of a sudden, here comes this wonder drug, Oxycontin. And lo and behold, it took away my pain and my emotional pain.
Right.
That was the problem. Like, it's probably exactly what led you to drink, because we're trying to deal with that pain inside, and we're trying to numb it or make it go away. And for a second it does, but then it always comes back up. And so to me, I was on an 8-year bender with that stuff. I didn't want to feel anymore. But like you, I said, what am I doing? My daughters are growing up without a dad. They already lost their mom. What am I thinking? God help me. And so, he did, but it was a tough road to recovery for me. It wasn't easy.
Yeah, and you're right. I think it's the emotional aspect of it that was the toughest, of actually feeling and dealing with the pain that you dealt with. Because look, when I had my daughter, I didn't drink, but it was the most, I couldn't, as much as I loved being with my daughter at the time, she was 2 years old. At the same time, I couldn't wait to get her back because I was hurting. There's no booze involved. So, I needed to get the alcohol with me to numb that pain. So even though I was physically with my daughter, I wasn't mentally there with her. And, a couple of years, I even though I was there, I still missed. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely hope out there, guys. So if you find yourself in that position, reach out to people, get some help. I promise you there's light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to be
listen, you can give out my number if you want, brother. I mean, sorry for interrupting you. If you want to give up listen, if anybody out there that you or somebody is struggling with addiction or in trouble, please, you can reach out to me. I'll give you my direct line. My cell is 818-612-4304. That's 818-612-4304. It's Deron, Deron McBee, McBee. Drop me a text. My voicemail is down, but if you need anything, just text me, man. I'll get right back to you within 24 hours for sure. So please reach out. Don't be a stranger.
Man, it was such a wonderful opportunity to be able to speak to you. I really, really appreciate it. You're welcome on this podcast anytime. Even if you want to come on for 5 minutes to promote something, give me a call. You are always welcome to come on.
Actually, I'm glad you said that. I will. Let's talk. Let's keep talking, because I've got a new product line. I've never endorsed a product in my life for reasons, because most of them are garbage. But there's some stuff right now that is absolutely amazing that I'm super excited about. I'm not going to talk about it right now, but let's do that. Okay. And I'll talk about it with you, and we hopefully move forward.
Absolutely. That's the deal, my friend. You have a great night, sir.
You too, man. God bless you guys. Thank you so much, brother, for having me on. Talk to me soon, okay?
Absolutely. Will do. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye, guys.